Alrighty, so we're back. Welcome back to part 3 of this Gen AI course, and today is where we dive into the Google AI Studio. So, if you haven't seen the previous video, then I've basically talked about just ChatGPT and Sora, basically OpenAI's own AI softwares. But today is where we try and uncover how you can, as a student or creator, make sure that you use the Google AI Studio to your advantage so that you can, well, of course, if you're a student, then get good grades in your exams. If you're a creator, then get the best video ideas possible, and so on and so forth. So in this video, I'm going to be covering NotebookLM, and it's by far arguably one of the best research AI tools that is available to anyone. And so I've been able to use a software like NotebookLM for quite a while now, and I've used it a lot for my university papers and exams and all that, and it's really helped me in preparing for my exams. So I'm going to show you how you can, even as a student or creator, use NotebookLM to your advantage. So as you can see on my screen right here, I am on NotebookLM, and you can basically just search up notebooklm.google and you'll be able to find your way to NotebookLM. Now, as you can see on my screen right here, I have already many previous notebooks that I've used and created over the past. These are just my university notebooks. And I basically use NotebookLM for note-taking and creating notes, as said in the name. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create a new notebook, and we're going to uncover the very, very small but unique features of NotebookLM. So let's create new notebook. So I've created the new notebook, and as you can see here, there's quite a lot of stuff going on, but right in front of you, you can see that you can add sources. Now, the way NotebookLM works is it's not like ChatGPT where it will give you information based off of the web, right? So NotebookLM really functions on whatever resource you give it, whether it's a YouTube video, a PDF file, or a document. It only gives you information from the sources you've given it. So the cool thing about this is you're not going to get AI generated information or fake information just because NotebookLM is not going to be surfing through the web. It's going to be giving you the information correctly based off of the sources you give it. So before I give it any sources, let's just run through what NotebookLM is going to do. So aside from that, here's your big interface, and majority of the stuff happens right in the middle. So on the left hand side, you have, of course, all your sources. You can see all the sources you've added. You can select and deselect what sources you don't want. Now on the left hand side, you can add any sort of source. Again, like I said, YouTube video, PDF, Word document, even an audio file if you wanted. As long as it's compatible with NotebookLM, you can add it as a source. Now in the middle here, this is where majority of the magic happens. This is where you see this little chat bot, and you can easily, of course, once you upload a source, you can chat with NotebookLM and ask your relevant questions based off of the source, which I will show you in a few minutes. Now on the left hand side here is where all the features are. So once you upload your sources onto NotebookLM, there's many different ways of you sort of interpreting that data. Of course, many times there's always been instances where I'm trying to learn this certain topic or certain subject, and I'm not really able to understand it based off of how the teacher or the lecturer teaches it. So what I can do instead is I can go to NotebookLM, put in my lecture slides or notes or whatever it is, and I can go over to this right hand side here, and I can have it teach me in different ways. So the first way is an audio overview. This is where NotebookLM generates an AI podcast. Yes, an AI podcast just from the resources that you publish, which I will show you in a minute. And of course, there's many different ways of portraying information. You have a video overview, which it generates an AI explainer video, a slide deck, which of course shows you a bunch of PowerPoint slides, a mind map where it shows you different branches of how your sources are related, reports, flashcards, quizzes, infographics, and data tables. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes how that's going to work. Okay, so I've jumped into one of my previous notebooks that I've created, and as you can see, I have uploaded a few resources from my lecture slides, from my one of my papers. And so every single question that I'm going to ask NotebookLM in this particular notebook is going to be from these 4 resources. And you have also the option to either accept or add in or remove any sort of resources that you want. So whatever resources that you tick is where the information that NotebookLM is going to take from. And if you deselect it, then it's not going to use that resource. So we're just going to toggle each and every one of these besides that one. So of course, this notebook talks about entrepreneurial finance. So basically entrepreneurs, startups, business, etc., etc. So I'm going to ask it a simple question today, and I'm going to ask, what is an entrepreneur? And as you'll see that it's not going to give me the Google definition of entrepreneur. It's going to give me the definition of what it's been written in my lecture slides. So as you can see, as is generated, an entrepreneur is defined as an individual who thinks, reasons, and acts to convert ideas into commercial opportunities and to create value. That is not particularly the Google definition, but it is the definition in my lecture slides. And along with that, it gives me characteristics of a successful entrepreneur. It gives me entrepreneur roles in a startup life cycle, which is, all of this is generally explained in my lecture slides, and also gives me context about New Zealand as well. So you might be thinking, well, this is a very simple question. I mean, everyone knows what an entrepreneur is. So let's ask it something a little different. Let's ask it how to start my own startup. And it's going to give me the information from the resources that I've given it. So as you can see, like ChatGPT and other AI models, it starts thinking. So it's given me all this information, and all of this information, like I said, is from these resources that I've given it. Nothing is from Google, nothing is from ChatGPT, nothing is from any external resource or website or YouTube video. Everything is from these 3 ticked boxes, 3 ticked resources. And as you can see, it's given me a very, very substantial overview of how I can start my own startup. Now, this is the most easiest part about just chatting with NotebookLM and asking it relevant questions. But if you're really struggling in a particular topic and you still think that asking questions isn't going to help you learn, then we're going to go over to the studio area, and this is where we're going to do our little magic trick. So let's say I'm a audio learner, I don't know what you call it, auditory learner, and I learn best when I listen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to audio overview. I'm going to click this pencil icon, and you have different ways of having your own AI podcast being made. So of course you have a deep dive where, they have 2 AI hosts talking to each other, and they have in-depth ways of, teaching you the subject. Brief is, well, you have sort of, I guess, self-explanatory. You're hovering over the topic. You have critique, and then you have debate, where they're debate. Let's just keep a deep dive for now, and we're going to keep the length default. And you could even say or ask, what do you want particularly the AI hosts to focus on in this episode? So I'm just going to say, focus on how anyone can start a startup at their young age. And we're just going to click generate. You don't need massively long prompts. You don't need paragraphs or words and words of, for your prompt. This is not like ChatGPT where, you have to write words and words and give it context. It already knows the context because you've given it the resources. You just have to say a few sentences. Okay, while that is being made, we can go over to something like reports. We'll click on reports, and it can give you different style reports based off of the resources that you want. So there's 4 types. One is create your own, which I'll go through later. The second one is a briefing doc, where it basically gives you notes, right? So if you're someone who doesn't like handwriting your notes, or just hates note taking, or doesn't know how to do it, you can give your resources to NotebookLM. You can go over the report and click briefing doc, and it will give you an overview of whatever stuff you've learned, or whatever you're learning in this particular resource. Study guide is going to give you short answer quizzes or short answer questions that you can practice and help yourself understand terms and glossaries and whatnot. The 4th is a blog post, which self-explanatory. It'll create a blog post which from the resources that you give it. And suggested formats, these are, well, based off of whatever you give it in terms of your resource. So right now I've given it entrepreneurial finance as a resource. So it's giving me things like market analysis, strategic management, educational concept, life cycle financing primer, so on and so forth. So in this case, we'll just click on briefing doc because I hate making notes. So we'll just click on that and it's going to start creating my own briefing doc. So we'll just wait till that actually happens. Alrighty, so it's been a few minutes and we finally gotten our first document, which is the briefing doc. And as you can see on the right hand side of my screen, that it has given us a pretty much a full-on bullet pointed notes vibe here. So you can see that it's, given us headings of the topic, it's given us definitions of entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial processes, traits of successful entrepreneurs. It's given us a whole deep understanding of entrepreneurs and finance and all that. It's given us even a table of, all the sort of metrics and all that. So a lot of detail in the briefing doc. And like I said before, that because it depends on what sources you give it. If you have sources that are very in-depth and they have a lot of information in them, then the results you're going to get from the briefing docs or the audio AI audio overview is going to be even more greater. So if you are someone who's lazy at making notes or doesn't know how to make good notes, then you can go over to NotebookLM and just drop in your resources and generate the notes from here. It is that easy. Aside from that, I also asked NotebookLM to make a mind map. So we'll just look at that for a second because it takes quite a while for the audio and video overview to actually make. Aside from that, I also asked NotebookLM to make a mind map of this resource. So we're just gonna click on that and we'll see how it looks. So this is a mind map, and as you can see, you have connections between entrepreneurial finance, the fundamentals, process, principles of finance, yada yada yada. And you can see these arrows. These arrows lead to more connections. So you can click on each arrow and you can open the mind map up a bit. And let's click on one of these. Let's say idea to opportunity. So if I click that, and it will give me a full-on note, right? Like it's taking notes based off of what that particular section is, and it's going to give me definitions of each and every point that I have on the mind map. So instead of, having to create notes for each and every section, you can just create a mind map and then click on each branch, you could say, and it will give you the whole notes for you. As you can see, it's generating live in front of me right now, and it's giving me full definitions. It's taken, references from the resources that I gave it, so on and so forth. Incredible. Aside from all of this, you can as well, if you're someone who likes to work as a group, in group studying, then you can as well share your notebook with someone else, and they can also see what's going on in terms of the notes you've made and the other resources you've used. Because I'm using the free version, you can add up to 50 resources. That could be any resource. If you do want to get the paid version, of course, of Google AI Studio, then you're able to upload, I think, around 500 to 1,000 resources. I'm not really sure. I'll have to look into that. But right now, you can upload at least 50 resources in this one notebook about any topic. So if you're someone who likes to make things personalized and make your AI tool personalized as well, so you can go over to the chat area and you can see this icon here. You click on that, configure notebook, and you can choose how you want NotebookLM to respond to your questions. So right now it's on default for me, but you can have it as a learning guide. You can even have a custom. You can give it, certain examples like, respond at a PhD level student and, so on and so forth. So you can give it examples of how you want NotebookLM to give you answers. And also you can choose how long you want your responses to be. Right now it's again at default. You can have it longer, you can have it shorter. I just have mine at default because I think this is quite enough. I don't need it any longer. But hence, if you do like to customize, then this is the best place to do it. But that was it for this video. If you really enjoyed it and you think you learned a lot from this tutorial, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't watched any of the other previous episodes, then go ahead and watch that as well. And if you are someone who thinks that this AI course can help someone else, then please make sure to share this course with them. And I think if you can, then help them as well in learning new AI tools as well. And if you haven't already, then go ahead, subscribe like I said before, And if you haven't seen this video right up here, then make sure you go watch it, and I'll see you in the next video.